Greetings, my name is Tom Bogle. I'm the lead developer for Transcelerator, and today I'd like to explain a little bit about how the program works and how it can speed up translation work. When a Bible translation has been drafted, it needs to be tested using native speakers of the language to make sure it sounds natural, makes sense, and communicates clearly the intended message. This is where Transcelerator comes in. Transcelerator is a paratext plugin that helps to accelerate the work of Bible translation teams by partially automating the translation of comprehension checking questions. The premise is that as a user translates a few questions, it is possible to infer plausible translations or partial translations for many other similar questions, or questions with parts that are similar. Mark Penny did the early pioneering on this. He noticed that the canned list of comprehension checking questions available in Translator's Workplace had a lot of questions that were exact duplicates for different scripture passages, were very similar, or contained phrases that were repeated in a lot of questions. He figured out that he could have the MTTs translate a few questions and commonly repeated phrases so they wouldn't have to translate every question from scratch. Furthermore, by taking advantage of his biblical terms database, he could get the computer to plug the correct proper names into questions that had a common frame, such as, what did A say to B? Then he and Mike Cochran began to wonder if someone could take this same concept and package it in a form that would make it accessible to teams that didn't have someone with the same technical know-how as Mark Penny. That's how I got involved. After picking Mark's brain via email and Skype, Tim Steenwijk and I put together a prototype. After some field testing to see what else was needed, we developed a plugin architecture for paratext. Then, early in 2014, we publicly announced the first official release of Transcelerator as a paratext plugin. Paratext plugin architecture currently only works on Microsoft Windows, and thus far, Transcelerator has only been developed for Windows. Transcelerator requires paratext 7.4 or later, but I'd recommend upgrading to 7.5 if you haven't already. The installer for Transcelerator requires administrator rights. Once installed, however, any authorized paratext user can use it. Transcelerator has minimal disk space requirements. The size of data will vary by project, but if all factory supplied questions are translated for the whole Bible, it's unlikely to take more than a few megabytes. Likewise, the memory requirements will vary by project, but will probably not exceed a few hundred megabytes. Transcelerator is fairly processor intensive, so if you have a slower machine, expect it to be a little sluggish, especially during startup. If you have not identified the vernacular equivalents for the terms in the major biblical terms list, Paratext will guess at the renderings using its statistical glossing feature. This will work fairly well, especially for proper names. But for best results, I would encourage you to work to analyze your use of these key biblical terms as much as possible. Not only will this probably help improve your translation, it will also enable you to get the maximum benefit from Transcelerator. After installing Transcelerator, restart Paratext. When you start Transcelerator, it will load questions for the currently active project, so make sure that the active project is the scripture translation you want to work on. For best results, set up your project for automatic keyboard switching. Now start Transcelerator by clicking the newly added Transcelerator item on Paratext's Tools menu. By default, Transcelerator initially tries to display the list of questions sorted so that the questions at the top are the ones that will give you the most bang for the buck. If you start translating from the top down, you will probably find that you will quickly start to make pretty good progress with the help of Transcelerator's automated translation guessing logic. The longer and harder questions to translate will sort closer to the bottom and sort the questions however you want. As you translate, Transcelerator will gradually learn and make better guesses. And here you can see in Transcelerator, I've already done a lot of the easy questions for Spanish. By doing Control down arrow, I can go to the next question that hasn't been translated. The question is, what did God command to Abimelech? And the guessed translation is already correct, so I will just confirm that and go to the next one. That question likewise is the same frame. What did God command to Isaac? And the term for Isaac has been filled in by Paratext's key terms list there, so I can just confirm that and go on to the next one. This question is, who was Isaac? And this one is also correct. and so on down the list. You can find questions that need to be translated and either translate them or confirm them. Once you've translated all the questions that you want to do for a particular book or passage, you go to the File menu, choose Generate Checking Script. In this case, I'm going to do the Book of Acts. Transcelerator lets me know that there's still 1,111 questions that I haven't translated. That's okay. And then it pops open a checking script that you can take to a village situation or send to somebody so that they can read the passages of scripture and answer the questions about them. So that's just a brief look at the Transcelerator software and how it works. So a little bit about the possible future of Transcelerator. We have had some requests to translate the user interface and questions into French. The Software Prioritization Committee is evaluating the merits of this. If localization of Transcelerator into a language of wider communication is of interest to you, please contact your area representative to make your needs known. Some of the other possible future enhancements to Transcelerator might include making customization of questions easier, improving the consistency and coverage of built-in questions, various usability improvements, such as making it easier to confirm guest translations more quickly. And finally, the hope is that one day the output from Transcelerator might be able to feed into another program that would be able to conduct comprehension checking questions using ScriptureForge website or mobile phones. So far, Transcelerator does not include integrated help. So if you need help, I recommend that you start by checking the wiki. And on the wiki also you'll see the link to download the software. There's more information there that you might find helpful. If you still have questions or need to interact with me further, feel free to send email to transcelerator_feedback@sil.org. If you have suggestions for improvement or would like to vote on suggestions made by others to guide decision makers concerning the future direction of the development of the software, please visit the Transcelerator user voice site. Thanks for your time. I hope you enjoy using Transcelerator in your work.